Okay, so hi everyone, my name is Dr. Rana and we're gonna start studying the operative dentistry. It's the revision of the mental dental, which I've already studied and made few slides on my PowerPoint presentation. And let's start dental caries. So first, before we talk about the caries, let's talk about the tooth. So the tooth, which is made up of apatite, it is a mineral group. So apatite, there are different types of apatite. One is hydroxyapatite, carbonate substituted hydroxyapatite, and then there is a fluorapatite. So hydroxyapatite, it is the main group, which is hexagonal and it's a white powder. It has a low bioresorption rate. Next is carbonate substituted hydroxyapatite. As the name suggests, it is substituted with the carbon, and the main component of enamel and dentin is the carbonated substituted hydroxyapatite. What happens when the hydroxyapatite is substituted with carbonate? It increases the solubility of hydroxyapatite. Next thing, there is something known as a Stephen curve. Stephen curve is a curve which tells or depicts the relation between the pH of plaque and the acidic environment of oral cavity. As we already know, what is acid? Lower the pH, that would be the acid. And then there is something known as a critical pH of the oral cavity, which is, according to the Stephen curve, is 5.5, because after this pH the demineralization starts. pH of plaque starts decreasing when the tooth enamel is exposed to either acids, sugary drinks or sugar, or GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease. So next thing is, if this demineralization starts, can it be directed toward the remineralization? Yes, that happens, because saliva, which we all have in our oral cavity, it in itself acts as a buffer, and it contains the calcium carbonate, and this calcium carbonate will combine with the hydrogen ion and it will form the carbonic acid that will help to neutralize the pH. So that will help to tooth to regain its strength by reincorporating the calcium and phosphate ion in the tooth. Next thing, how this demineralization takes place or how the cavity is formed. So sugar, which is a preservative, but because it helps, it has the ability to soak up the water, but in our mouth, which due to its moist environment, it acts as a site for the bacteria to grow. So what happens is that cariogenic bacteria will come, they will digest this sugar which we consume for our own energy, and they will produce the lactic acid via fermentation, and this hydrogen ion will combine with the free phosphate ion to form the phosphoric acid, and then from here the demineralization starts. So this thing will pull the calcium and phosphate ion out of the tooth, and that will lead to the weakening of the tooth structure. Now, demineralization has occurred. How can you remineralize the tooth structure? Saliva, we already talked about it. Saliva acts as a buffer. Next is MI paste. You can apply the MI paste, which increases the concentration of minerals such as calcium and phosphate. Third thing is fluoride. Fluoride, what it does, it replaces the hydroxyl group, and then fluorapatite is formed. Fluorapatite does not let go of the calcium as easy as hydroxyapatite. Continuing with the same thing, the mechanism of action of the fluoride, or what is the mechanism of action of fluoride? So remineralization decreases the enamel solubility, lower the critical pH, and interfere with the metabolic activity of cariogenic bacteria. Three things it does. Just remember these three things. Mostly or most often asked in the inbde boards. So remineralization decreases the enamel solubility and interfere with the metabolic activity of cariogenic bacteria. So what is this critical pH? And it is different for enamel, dentin, and cementum. So enamel, which is fluorapatite, or the apatite which has fluoride, it has the critical pH 4.5. Enamel, which is carbonated substituted hydroxyapatite, it has 5.5, which the carbonated substituted hydroxyapatite is the main component, of the enamel and dentine. And the fluorapatite, when fluoride interacts with the hydroxyl group or hydroxyapatite, so it helps to lower down the critical pH. Next thing is the dentine and cymindum, and the critical pH for that is 6.2 to 6.7. So any tooth with the where the roots are exposed, they are more prone to caries. Next is, how do you define the caries? Caries is a multifactorial transmissible infectious oral disease. And then there is this diagram, which is modified Keys-Jordan diagram, and it says there are 4 factors which are responsible for the caries. One is plaque, diet, tooth, time. Please listen it carefully once again: plaque, diet, tooth, and time. So, and then there are other factors which also play an important role in the progression of the caries, and these are, one is the primary modifying factor and there is secondary modifying factor. Primary modifying factors are tooth anatomy, saliva, pH, fluoride, diet, oral hygiene, immune system, genetic factors. Secondary modifying factors are education, age, lifestyle, environment, socioeconomic status, and the occupation. Then there are a few terms which are related to the caries, or we can say that how the caries occurs, and then in what kind of shape it took eventually. So if the pit and fissure caries, there will be always an inverted V shape. It means the base will be broad, and then when it reaches towards the end, then it will become narrow, and smooth surface, it will be V shape. I'm really sorry. Pit and fissure, it's inverted, opposite of V, and smooth surface, it would be V shape. Then there is a root surface caries, and they progress rapidly because critical pH is very high. And then, so there we should know these two differences definitely: infected dentine, affected dentine. Very important question asked so many times. So infected dentine, there we how do I learn that infected dentine is soft, superficial, meshy, necrotic. Infected, it is infected with the bacteria. We have to remove it, we cannot leave it at all. And it is soft, it is superficial, it is meshy. Affected dentine, it is dry, it is deep, it is demineralized, it is leathery. So 3 D's. D3 is affected dentine: dry, demineralized, deep. Dry, demineralized, deep, and leathery. But it is not invaded by the bacteria, and we can leave it to the affected site if it is close to the pulp. Infected dentine, you have to remove it, and it is superficial, it is meshy, it is necrotic, it is soft, and is already infected with the bacteria. So it's like when you are trying to remove anything, you don't have to apply so much pressure, it can easily come out. Affected dentine, you can leave it if it is close to the pulp and it is not infected with the bacteria. Next is, if we want the tooth to be demineralized, for that intact surface has to be there. And cavitation, if cavity has taken into place, so cavitation has occurred, it is an irreversible process. It requires restorative treatment, it cannot be remineralized. So cavitation, it takes 1 to 2 years to form, and the surface is not intact, tooth surface is not intact anymore. What are the steps in cavitation? First thing happen will be enamel demineralization, dentine demin, and then enamel cavitation, and then cavitation. And cavitated enamel surface is broken, and caries is already progressed into dentium. Then there are different types of classification according to which we can classify the caries based on the how many surfaces are involved. So simple, only one surface. Compound, 2 surfaces of the tooth are affected. Complex, 3 or more surfaces of tooth are involved. Okay, then there are primary, secondary, residual caries, acute, rampant, chronic, or slow. So let's go through all these things also. Primary caries, it is a first time the tooth surface got decay, never ever the tooth surface got decay. Okay. Secondary caries, so secondary caries at the junction of the tooth and the restoration. Already the caries has occurred, we have restored it, but then again the caries came back. Okay, so secondary caries, also known as recurrent caries. Residual caries. Residual, the name itself says residue, and the thing which has been left behind. So caries left behind in a completed tooth prep. We completed the tooth prep and caries has been left behind. And there is acute or rampant caries. Acute, which acute is something rampant or acute. Rampant which is rapidly progressing. So rapidly it will damage the tooth structure. It is soft, it is infectious, it is light colored. Okay. Next is chronic or slow. It slow. I mean, like, obviously it is damaging the tooth structure, but not very rapidly. It will be different from the acute or rampant caries. Like, it is hard, it is discolored, and acute or rampant is soft and light colored. Soft and light colored is acute or rampant, and slow will be hard and discolored. Next is arrested caries. Caries is resistant. Here caries are resistant. So the brown black hard caries is resistant. The caries, if exposed to the fluoride, even if you will apply the fluoride, the caries say that nah, I'm not going anywhere. And then there is a dentine lesion, something known as sclerotic dentin. Sclerotic dentin has been produced by the odontoblast to regress the progression of lesion. Okay, now we're going to talk about some bacteria, some microbes which are responsible for these caries. So for enamel caries, it's always the Streptococcus mutans, which is the favorite ones, and this microorganism has its own characteristics, or it has its own features. What are these features? Let's talk about it. First thing, it is a gram positive. Second thing, it has GTF. GTF is glucosyl transferase. What it does, it converts the sucrose to glucans and the fructans. Okay, and it is acidogenic. It means it will convert the sucrose to lactic acid. It is acidic. It can tolerate the acid. It is bacteriocin. It kills off the microbes. So these all are the properties of Mr. Streptococcus mutans. Next, the dentinal caries. Dental caries, the organism which is responsible for is the lactobacillus. For root caries, it is actinomyces. And definitely we know Mr. Saliva, which acts as a buffer. So what are other components, what are other properties of saliva? Let's talk about that also. So saliva has glycoprotein. What it does? Glycoprotein binds other bacteria, agglutinate or bind the other bacteria together, and it helps them to eliminate them through swallowing. Second, it does have urea, so it will dilute the bacterial acid product. Lysozyme, it means it can destroy the cell wall. Lactoferrin, ferrin means iron, and lacto inactivate, so it can inactivate the iron. Lactoperoxidase, lacto means it definitely will inactivate, but what will it will inactivate bacterial enzyme. Then there is salivary immunoglobulin A. Then there is saliva also contain other things like calcium phosphate, fluoride, cystatin, histatin, proline rich proteins. So this topic is over here, the dental caries. Next topic we will it will be diagnosis and treatment planning. So that's it. Thank you.